Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in. I'm Robbie.
I'm Jason.
And welcome to the table. Here we are, another episode. This one's spicy because this is I was with you, Jason, basically when our last episode dropped.
Yep.
Yeah, because we recorded ahead of time.
Yep.
So I don't know about you, but it was like a hard grasp wrapping my mind around like, okay, what games have we played? Like, what have I played since then? Because we recorded.
Yep.
Yeah, the timing gets all odd.
Yep. Well, even when I did the show notes, I was like, why does that say like 3 weeks ago? Well, because we recorded, because our show notes, I put the date of the day we recorded, not the drop date. I was like, is that right? Okay, no, that's right. We actually, though we recorded 3 weeks ago, we saw each other 2 weeks ago. So it's all jumbling together.
I love it. Well, Jason, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing well, man. I've gotten to play. We're in Fantastic February now. So for new listeners, if you follow me on Instagram, it's my name on Instagram, Fantastic February, though I have Fantastic February Disc Golf. My family, every February for the 10 years in a row, in the month of February, play a game every day. Now, life has expanded out, so it's not every day, but we try to play one game every day, and we do a full-blown competition. I'm looking at all our scoreboards. I don't know if they're up yet. When you were here, Robbie, we put them up, but all our previous year scoreboards are around my room. And so we've only played, even though it's February, oh my gosh, it's February 25th, we've only played 4 games just because of life. Wow. It is what it is. Well, the first game we played was with you. This very game was actually, the game we're talking about today was actually the first game of Fantastic February. So we're only 4 games in because of life, but I just went away for our 27th wedding anniversary. Me and Elizabeth and Christopher and Mandy did. And we played, we got 5 or 6 games played in just during that time, as well as 3 escape rooms like we discussed on text. And so we're doing well, man. It's good because we're about to hit a stretch of playing a bunch of games. How are you doing, brother?
Hey, doing swell. Today was, so my wife goes back to work in a week and a half, basically, which is like the realization of, wow, my son is 3 months old soon. Like
yep.
that's crazy. So today was our first trial run of like, okay, let's just act like Lindsay's not here. And so I am going to, because with childcare and things like that, we're trying to figure out like how we're balancing and workflows. And so I was like, okay, today is the first day of Lindsay doesn't exist. She's at work in theory. And I am going to work and handle Leo because two days a week ish until the summer. That's going to be the flow is that it's me with him type deal. So we tried that today and it didn't go well, but that's fine. That's fine. It went great. Got to spend time with him, but I certainly am going to be working into the evening type deal. It's I'm grateful to have a job that has some flexible things to it, and so I can get the work done that I need to get done. It's just when that happens, probably going to be shifting for a little bit. So
no doubt. I was thankful because Elizabeth was a homemaker, homeschool mom our entire time. So I never had that challenge. So I will keep you in my mind and keep in my prayers, man, because I know that's tough, especially for the first kid, because you're figuring it all out. Like all those parents out there who are listening. First kid is in hindsight, some of the best memories, but in the moment, the worst time of that's what I tell everybody. It's like, oh, in hindsight, those are the greatest things, those miserable days. But when you're in the moment of that miserable day, it's just miserable and it never ends. You're like, I don't know what to do. I've tried everything. Nothing's working. So
yeah, had things ready to go. And I'm like, I've got him. He's settled. And, he hasn't figured out how his head works yet or anything like that. But he knows that it's heavy. And so I'm like, I sit up in the recliner to like, okay, he's settled. Let's go lay him in the crib. And then as soon as I sit up in the recliner, he just hits like this jerk motion and throws his head back and wakes himself up. And I was like, all right, that whole 30 minutes of prep, useless. Toss it out the door. Yeah. So it was a time. If you've got newborns in the comments, let me know. But it does make me excited. Like Elizabeth was putting up the game boards on the last day that I was there. And it just made me excited because I fully believe the Fantastic February is going to be a tradition that moves from your family to mine.
That's cool.
And so really, really excited for the days in the distant future, but where we get to do it. But Jason, what games have you been playing lately, man?
Like I said, I've been playing a ton. We got a few games in when you were here. Excuse me. Still battling. I've had a cough, like a little cold, for a while, and it's feeling better, but it's the congestion is still there. But I'm going to mention the newest game from Jamie Stegmeyer, Stonemaier Games, Finspan. I'd hoped it arrived before you came, but it literally arrived like right after you left or close to it. We got to the table quite quickly. and enjoyed it, and then played it again this past weekend with Christopher and Mandy. Finspan, you guys have first talked about Wingspan. We've covered it. Wormspan, similar game. Finspan is a lighter version for those who have played Wingspan and Wormspan, where essentially you are putting fish in water, and there's three sections of the board, like twilight or afternoon, daylight, twilight, and midnight, and it dictates where you can put your fish. And so you're either playing fish, or you're active, or you're diving, which means you're activating the sections. The cool thing about Finspan is that your cards that you have in your hand are often the resource to pay for a fish. And those cards go into your personal discard, so then you have an action to get those cards back. The resources for playing a fish are discarding a card, turning in a young, which is a small fish, or turning in an egg. And then you also can consume, which is a reverse version of tucking. You don't tuck in this game, but you can consume other fish that are shorter. And those consumed fish are just like tucked cards from, the other two games that are 1 point each. And so it is the gameplay super light, but then it can get super crunchy because I need to get 3 eggs to hatch them, try to become a school, but this costs this. So it does have a heavier load than I thought heavier cognitive load than I thought it was going to be if you're really trying to win. Again, I foot stomped this so much. Sometimes play the games just have fun, because otherwise the games would go too long, right? Now, I know some people, my writer will tell you, he goes, if he loses bad, he doesn't have fun. Well, if you know that's who you are, then I got it. Play at the speed you need to play. But sometimes play just to have fun. Elizabeth smoked me both times. We played a 2-player game and a 4-player game. And what I've learned more than anything with Finspan, I think I even texted this to you, is similar to those who played Wormspan and Wingspan, is that you have some cards that are when played, some cards are activate when you dive, and some cards are end of game things. When we played in Gatlinburg, so that's where we went for my anniversary, the game I played, a true statement, I got a single end of game card and a single when activated card. And my other, I think 20 something cards were all when played. Kid you not, it's just a bad luck. And Elizabeth has like everything happening perfect. And she even said, Elizabeth's very good. You played with Elizabeth, a very good gamer. And when you're a good gamer and literally everything goes your way, it's not going to be close. It ain't going to be close by anybody. Christopher actually did a really good job and made it closer than we all thought it would be, but she still won easily. It was almost like the score really wasn't, she won by a lot. The score was closer just because some very last minute things Christopher was able to do, and I got smoked. But I was like, I got another not brown. The win activated cards are the brown cards, right? No brown cards. No brown. Okay. And then the downside is, because when played, lay an egg on all these things, but the difference with this is you can only have 1 egg per fish. Whereas in Wingspan and Wormspan, you have like a number you can have.
There's like counts, yeah.
By default, it's only 1. So if you're doing when played, lay eggs, but you already have eggs.
That card's useless. Yeah. Less effective.
Yeah. What is cool is a lot of the when activated cards help everybody out. So it's meant to be a lighter load where you're getting more stuff because of everybody gets an egg. Everybody can hatch an egg. Everybody can do this. Everybody do that. That definitely happens a lot in Finspan in general compared to the other two games. So if you like the fish theme, the art's amazing, lots of really cool fish in there. It's definitely lighter of the 3. And Jamie's even said it's like Wormspan, Wingspan, Finspan. And so for playing Finspan, it's the lighters there, but to try to min-max a little more crunchy. So it was one that Elizabeth really likes because she's won it twice. But I'm like, for me, still like Wormspan better, but Finspan is one I'll keep for now to play with other folks just to show them the new game. The other game we've played is The Mind. I think we talked about this before. You've played The Mind, right?
Yeah.
So I know we've probably had this as a game we played lately, but the gist of The Mind is that there's a deck of cards 1 through 99. And on round 1, everyone is dealt 1 card, and your goal is to play them in ascending, so lowest to highest, with no communication at all. It literally says 0 communication. Now you can do your own homegrown versions of communications that are predetermined, but no communication at all. In a 4-player game, so if you all do it in order, I play the 2 and Robbie plays the 12 and Liz plays the 33 and Lindsay plays the 71. Okay, you just won that round. A 4-player game starts with 4 lives and 1 throwing star. Throwing star's ability basically to all agree to discard your lowest card to try to help each other out. And then after you win certain levels, you'll get more lives. The first time we hit it, we got 2 level 6. And in a 4-player game it's only 8 levels. But what that means is we got dealt 5 cards each and still made it through that level. So each new level 2, everybody gets 2 cards. Level 3, everybody gets 3 cards. And so, and I was like, as soon as we finished that, I was like, we'll never do that well again tonight. And then we had multiple ones after that. We lost on level 1 or level 2. And it is wild because my arrogance is very high when it comes to the mind. And I get mad when people don't play things smartly, because we have one of our pre-established rules are, if you have a single digit card, you slide your hand out there. That's just kind of okay. But if you have kind of like maybe a 10 or 11 or 12, you kind of go halfway. If you're 20 or higher, you just sit there for a second. And like one time, Mandy didn't throw the 11. And so I threw out the 19. I was like, man, and I yelled at Mandy, like, why didn't you throw the 11? You're killing me. And then, later on, we had another one where it was the lowest card, I think, was like 52, but everybody was sitting back. And so, but everybody, like me, Elizabeth, and Chris were like this, which is our unwritten rule of, okay, I got a high card. And then I have like a 69 or something. So I'm like way back here. And Mandy didn't throw it. I was like, okay. And I threw it, and she's like, I was like, you're killing me. Like, what are you doing? So we had many rounds like that. And so it was just, the mind can be a ton of fun. My explanation will not explain how much fun you can have with the mind, because you really get mad at each other for not doing it right. And there was one time we just got going, and I threw it and we dealt it, and Chris really fast threw out a 6. And then Elizabeth threw out a 7, but May's like, I haven't looked at my card yet. And she had like the lowest card because Christopher had a 6. He was trying to get out there. And so the joke for the night became like, we kept seeing the 11 and the 52. So like, there's that 52 again, you know? So it was wild. And we did the stars a couple of times. And one time we did the stars, it was like 21, 22, 26. I was like, what are the odds we actually get that right? So, and she also messed up. I'm picking on Mandy because she'll listen to this. She had once where she played like a 63 or something like that. And Liz was like, okay, so she played the 66, but Mandy forgot she also had the 64 in hand. So she played the 60, as opposed to playing 2 cards at once. She played 1 card and then sat back. And then Elizabeth already jumped, because if you have the 63 and then you have the 66, you're like, I need to get in there really quick. Anyway, that was a wild description of a game it's really not, it's called The Mind. It's more of an activity. And it's best to be played at like 11 o'clock at night. Let's be honest, right? You just have some good time.
Be a little slap happy.
Right.
And ready to have some good times.
Accept the fact that whatever happens. And so, The Mind is a good one out there if you're okay with chaos and not having any chance of winning a game, but you just want to see what you can do. So those are my 2 games.
I think The Mind is definitely one that I would say is a fun one to bring out with family. A fun one to bring out with like a crew that you know well. I would never, ever bring The Mind out with a bunch of random people. Because exactly what Jason's saying, where you're like, really? Really? You had the 11 and you decided to just sit back and wait.
Right.
Excuse me. Like it makes you, if you're competitive at all, even when you walk in with the right mindset, it makes you have some bad thoughts about other individuals.
All true.
But it is such good, fun memories and inside jokes everywhere. The 52. There's 52.
Yeah,
so
11:52. That's it.
My game that I played recently was Wonderland's War, which is one of the games that we played while I was up in Virginia. Loved it. I thought this game was super intriguing. It is one of the hallmark games of Druid City Games. I think that's a fair statement to say. Probably that and like Tidal Blades are probably
it's by far their highest rated, because it's almost in the top 100, if not in the top 100 of BGG right now. So Wonderland's War.
Yeah. So what I learned during this is that I'm a much bigger Alice in Wonderland fan than I gave credit for, because I just the theming of it is really cool. What's wonderful, Wonderland's War is it's an area control game where it's an area control game, but the combat is based around bag building. So bag builders are like deck builders in the sense of there's a somewhat quote market that you're going to, and you're adding things to your collection. And then you're drawing randomly from that collection. And the better you can refine that's deck builders in general, right? I'm going to draw 5 cards each turn or whatever it may be. I love deck builders. I think deck builders are super fun. I always feel like bag builders are easier to get into most often than deck builders, because deck builders, usually you're trying to find multiple buy actions in the case of Dominion, or multiple draw cards, because if you can cycle through your deck, that's ideal. And bag builders, most often, I feel like you're indeed not trying to go through your bag as often, because bag builders always have some bad things mixed in it. Quedlinburg is one that we talk about quite often. It's a bag builder. There is really no board to it. You're just kind of pulling and pushing your luck. Wonderland's War is a bag builder in the sense of when you do combat in this area control, you're pulling chips out of your bag. But there's really two phases, which I think is really fun. Here are all the fun elements of Wonderland's War to me. There's one phase where you're going around this tea party table and you are gaining resources and things like that, and placing your chips out for the war that's to come. You're at the tea party. But there's also this really fun mechanic of you have to choose between like decent options, or you can refresh those options, but it comes at the cost of making your bag inherently worse, the potential to make your bag inherently worse, things like that. So a lot of the mechanics I felt like were really well balanced inside of the game when it came to if you want better choices, you have to gamble for it. So the push your luck element that you normally get inside of bag builders is existent in a lot of places, which I thought was really cool. It has a lot of miniatures, and the miniatures are part of the deluxe edition, which we then discovered is, I think right now you can only buy the deluxe version. It's fair to say it comes with a lot of miniatures. But then I loved that aspect. I love the theming. I love the art, but I also love the asymmetrical powers. And that's something that Jason and I were talking about afterwards, is that there's 5 characters that all have these unique powers that you sort of unlock throughout the game. And you kind of choose the pace of which you want to unlock those actions. So like Elizabeth was next to me and she was playing Alice. I was playing the Mad Hatter. By the end of the first round, I had only gone for activating my special abilities. So I went into the first war with basically my character fully strong, but no troops. And Elizabeth had gone the exact opposite direction because I had been taking all of the ability unlock type deals. Yep. So she just had to go troops. So there's a fun balance in that. But when we were talking about it afterwards, I was like, I really want to play as all 5 characters. Yep. To really decide like where this sits in my overall view of the games. Because I like 2 of the characters seem really intriguing to me. The first one I played in the Mad Hatter, Jason played one, the Jabberwock, also seems really intriguing to me. Probably my Slytherin coming out in that, but I like the influence that it has. Looking at Alice's, it felt like Alice seems like a playstyle that doesn't really gel with me type deal, just based on what her character did. Didn't really get to see what Hannah was doing with the Cheshire Cat, so so there's just, I want to see all 5, but I think that's really fun as someone who loves to go really deep on a game. I think that's really cool that you can kind of have 5 different play experiences, and it's not like Villainous where every play experience is different because the villains are different, but you're just kind of playing that. The game still plays the same. It's just how you choose, how you can win is different based on the character you're playing. So I thought that was a really unique side to it. But yeah, Wonderland's War. I ordered it, and I was chuckling because Jason and I ordered it a week and a half ago. And it says my shipping notification is like, hey, we see that like the order, UPS basically doesn't have the order yet.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, well, because I think they're still fulfilling like Title Blades 2, and so it's just in the long queue. Unfortunately, it'll get there eventually. But
I'm not worried about it. We got time.
Yeah.
So, Jason, any thoughts on Wonderland's War? You want to jump into our main topic?
Wonderland's War was fun. It's in the title. I mean, war is in there, so there's combat, but it's bag pulling, so it's not the same as, it sounds odd. I think we talked about this, but die rolling for combat I hate, even though it's a necessary thing in the world of combat games. You could argue that bag pulling is the same, but it's just similar. It's similar because it's still the randomness of what you pull, but I have more agency in there. Whereas the die is 1 through 6 always. Or at least in Wonderland's War and a deck building game, but Wonderland's War and Quacks, I at least get to choose what chips I'm putting in there. So I'm trying to drive what that outcome could be. And I love bag pulling games. It's just fun. the randomness of a bag pulling game is always a blast. So I love for sure. The art is crazy. Will's painting the stuff right now for us. And so it's just, we talked about that night. It's just a little too long. Now, granted, we played a 5-player game. Most people are like, a 2-player game is not enough combat. A 3-player, like you need to have more people so you have more combat in the regions. But 5 is wow. It's probably better for
a while.
It's wow. Especially if you know the game. A 5-player game may take 2 hours as if everybody moves smoothly. It'll take 2 hours if everybody knows it and moves smoothly. But if you play the lower player count, I don't think you get the same feeling because there's so less combat going on. I think Elizabeth and I played once at 2-player, and it's just not the same, right? Because every region is still available in a 2-player game. But if if no one goes in combats there, you just don't get as many points. So it tries to trunk down that you can just go someplace and get it for free. So, but it needs to be that 3 to 4 player aspect. Worker movement, bag building, all good. It just takes because of all the combat in the 6 regions, it takes a little longer than not in a bad way. It's a little bit longer game, but I play long games, so I can't really complain. So
yeah,
I'm definitely glad you liked it.
It's and another, you talk about combat, something that I want to like emphasize as well, because I think it's a cool part of it. The combat happens in the different regions, but your bag sort of doesn't, like, unless things go terrible, your bag doesn't really update as you go through, which is really fun because you're pressing your luck in each of the battles. Yep. So if I go into my first battle and I just get like stopped because I draw bad chips, that's fine. Because now I'm walking into my next battle and I'm like, oh, well, I'm playing like Will and I just fought and he got a ton of good chips and I pulled all my bad chips. Round 2, baby, you're going crazy in that next fight. So it is cool in that aspect as well. I noticed in one of the fights, it was like, okay, I exactly the opposite. I did really well in one region. And then I was like, ooh, this is not where I was anticipating getting a win during this stage of the war.
I had one specific battle that was like 4 bad pulls. I was doing really, really well, and all of a sudden it went bad. And that's okay. It in the moment, it's frustrating. The cool thing too is this is definitely a game because the 5 factions, playing the different factions multiple times, and even the helpers, the basic chips you buy. There's 4 versions of those. I mean, it's the same chip, but they do 4 different things. A la Quacks, the same chips can do different things in different games. So you can just find that combination. And the Wonderlandians themselves, there's a big old stack of Wonderlandians. You may only see a few of them during the game. So that game, thankfully, though it's a long game, has high replayability because every game can be so very different based on which character you're doing. So I will spoil this for sure. It's an early birthday present or late Christmas present. I was on Etsy today, or somebody shared they sell stickers to go on the wood meeples for Wonderland's War. So if you think about your meeples or just the shape, or someone sells stickers, so I bought 2 sets, one for me and one for you. So hopefully I'll have them.
I love it.
At MC or in a few weeks at the takeover if they're in by then. But we'll call it late Christmas early birthday present. But
I love it.
The reviews are really good because this place, that's all they do is stickers for meeples, and so they have really high reviews. And someone shared it like on one of the Facebook pages, and I immediately went to it and bought it right away. 2 sets. so that we'll have it. One more level of upgrade for your game. So
you are the man. I'll come clean in my admission. We talked about this with Jason, but my mother-in-law has recently gotten into mahjong. This is relevant for all the people watching. My mother-in-law got into mahjong, and she was at my house. She was talking about how fun it was, and she was like telling me about how much the tiles cost to buy. And I was like, oh yeah, like can't be that expensive. So I went on Amazon and I looked it up and I was like, yeah, mahjong tiles. They're like $30 or $40, easy peasy. And she was like, no, Robbie, they're way more expensive than that. And I was like, no, Mom, I'm telling you, like, I'm like showing her on my phone, like they're only $30 or $40. And she was like, no. Half the fun is playing with the pretty ones. And so at first I was like, wow, I judged her heavily for that. And then, having it pointed out to us that, all the special unique bits and things that we play with in our games.
Well, I'll add one more along those same lines about her wanting the nice mahjong. And we've talked lightly about this, but Crokinole, eventually I'm going to get a Crokinole board, but I'm going to really get a really nice one, right? Hunters is really good as well. Not top of the line, but mid-level line. It's a good quality. So I'm going to at least that good quality or better. Cause the few times I played Crokinole, I loved it. We're talking to Chris Romani this weekend about it. Cause they tried it out. because James has a really nice board, and they once a year or twice a year do like a cabin getaway where a bunch of the old friends of them get together and play games all weekend. And so Christopher said that the last one James brought Crokinole, and everybody loved it. And I'm like, oh, I love it, but I'm not buying the $200 board off Amazon. I'm going to get like the 7. That's why I haven't bought one yet, because that's a lot of money. Yeah. But when I buy it, it's going to be like, I'm going to have this the rest of my life. It's going to, I'm going to hang up on the wall as a decoration, pull it down to play with it, and go from there. But same. I want that thing to be high quality.
Yeah. So speaking of high quality, what a pivot here. Let's talk about today's game, shall we, Jason? I think today's game is one that has been brought up on the podcast several times before. Almost every time that we've done categories that this would fall into, we always go to it because it's a classic. Like you mentioned, it was the first game that we played in Fantastic February. Jason, tell us about Dixit.
Absolutely, man. So Dixit was, it's crazy thing about it. It was released in 2008. And there's not too many games I can say this, but if you release this game today as a brand new game, it would feel like a brand new game from today. That's how amazing Dixit is to be released in 2008. 27 years ago, 17 years ago, not 27, 17 years ago. Designed by Jean-Louis Rubiera. And this is only a big game he's done. He's done a few different versions of Dixit, and I think he helped with Mysterium. Published by Libellude, which is French name and French company. 3 to 6 players, plays in 30 to 45 minutes, which is pretty accurate. In Dixit, on your turn, a player is the storyteller, so who chooses one of the 6 cards in their hand. All players have 6 cards in their hand, and expresses an idea. They can express that idea with sounds or words or whatever it may be. It could be happiness, or you could whistle, or you could just make a noise if you just wanted to knock, right? You express your idea. That's reflected on a card they choose in their hand. These cards are just different versions of images. And then everyone else in their hand chooses a card they think they'll match that expression and passes the card to the storyteller. Storyteller shuffles those cards and lays them out. Then every player other than the storyteller votes or guesses on which one you think is the storyteller's card, right? You're trying to guess the storyteller's card. If the storyteller card has a card like this, and I'll show it, has like a moon in there, and you could say like sleepy. And so other people are doing that. So you're trying to guess the storyteller's card. All the other players are. So if everyone or no one guesses the storyteller card, everyone gets 2 points except the storyteller, because either his clue was too easy or too hard. If at least one person, but not everyone else at the table, guessed the storyteller card, the storyteller gets 3 points. Everyone who guessed the correct card, the storyteller's card, gets 3 points. Plus, any other player who had cards that got voted on but weren't the storyteller's card, i.e. their card was good enough to make you make a guess, gives you 1 point as well. The game ends when the deck is empty, or if a player scored at least 30 points, which I've never seen it with the deck being empty because we just kept shuffling through. I didn't even know that was a thing.
I didn't know that was possible.
That maybe being the rules. Who knows? We just keep on going through. Player with the most points wins. Now, we'll highlight the version we played with Robbie here was Disney Dixit. The exact same game, 100%. There's literally no difference in it. It's just all Disney art. And you would think, and so when we're talking, we may reference both games in different ways because we played the Disney one, but it didn't. And I'd heard reviewers say this. It being Disney did not push us to make Disney clues because it becomes too obvious. It's just we loved as a Disney fan, and everybody at this table, Will is becoming a Disney person, but everybody else at the table who played are hardcore Disney folks. So we loved just seeing this unique, abstract, direct art on Disney stuff. So there's a Disney Dixit, exact same gameplay. So if you see either one, if you buy a base Dixit or Disney Dixit, it's the exact same gameplay that we're discussing today.
Yeah. So diving in, talking setup and teach. The setup and teach, so simple.
Yep.
So simple. You're laying a board out. You are dealing out 6 cards to each player, and they are picking a rabbit to represent them in the original game, or their player marker that matches a color, and they're getting some voting tiles. That's it.
Yep.
It's super easy. And then, I mean, Jason could read exactly what just happened, and we're ready to play our first round.
Yep.
Like what I usually do when I teach this is I flip the bottom of the deck over.
Yep.
And I try to find 2 cards that I think could easily fit into a phrase. And then I just grab 4 other cards, or whatever the player count is. And so I just do that from the bottom cards of the deck to do that. And then I shuffle it once I get the example. Yep. But I'll find 2 that work, and I'll be like, all right. So if I were the clue giver, I would look at my hand and I would say jump. And then everyone would pick a card from their hand and then would make this pile. We'd shuffle the pile, we'd lay it out, you'd vote. And I would ask y'all right here, which one of these do you think was mine that said jump?
Yep.
And so we basically just play like a faux round right off the bat. And they're like, well, I think it would be that one. And then immediately people realize, it's like actually not as obvious as I thought it would be.
Yeah, because you hit the nail on the head, and I do the same thing, a sample one, because even describing this, until you see the cards and you do it, it's like that sound, I don't understand. The moment you see it, is like, boy, the end of the game, like, oh, I get it. It's all, like you said, it's literally black and white obvious how quick it is. You see how that is? Okay, then you look in your hands, okay, I totally get this now.
Yeah, and I think what's really cool about I feel like we're going to reference a lot of games inside the Dixit universe, and we may end up like talking about them in future episodes. So we'll always reference back to this one. But inside the Dixit universe, and this will kind of get to the theme as well, is that I feel like because the cards are so unique inside of this game, that all of the games inside, whether it's this Mysterium or what was the last one that we played when I was up there, Stella, are all ones that conceptually you're like, I just don't know if I'm really grasping the game. And it takes one showing to be like, oh, okay.
Yep.
No, totally. The concept, like the cards are so powerful and so unique in themselves that the rule of whatever game you're playing gets wrapped around it so simply.
Yeah.
It's something I don't know that I've ever seen in any other game that exists out there. Like from hearing it described last week or last episode or 2 episodes ago, the portrait one,
Canvas.
Canvas. That's it. Yeah. Feels like the closest that you could ever get in terms of like the cards are just so unique in themselves.
Yep.
That you have to see it.
You have to see it to do it for sure. And there's a ton of expansions, quote unquote, but it's just more cards, right? So if you ever see the expansion, it's just more cards. And I even realized I opened up my base Dixit and had an expansion set of cards. I'm like, I haven't even played the regular Dixit, and I had these other cards because there was some cards I'd never recognized. Because we played Dixit so much that you just start recognizing the cards, and you may remember the clue from the previous time, but I can't do the same clue this time, or do I do it and throw everybody off because they weren't expecting the same clue, because there's just one in the base game that has like a braided hair, has a gold ring around it. So we always think about Lord of the Rings, even though it doesn't have like any Elvish on there or whatever. It's like, that's clearly Lord of the Rings, right? You know, so you may be like, Frodo. Okay, well, that's too obvious, but is it too obvious and everybody wouldn't get it? So for sure, like I said, the teach quite easy. The theme, and you heard me use the word storyteller because I didn't even know that was the theme of this game, because there's no theme. Yeah. But I guess there is, because you're telling a story and you're trying to get people to guess what the expression of what your story is, right? That don't mean in a bad way. Games have to have themes to sell, but this one has no theme. The art, which we'll talk about later, is what makes the game. The art is amazing. Like the best art in board games is probably in this game. So the theme is not the important thing here. The art definitely is.
Yeah. And I'm the theme guy, guys. I feel like in the world that we go to our first ever conference, Bards gets our invite, we go to the conference together, Jason. I feel like that's my shirt. It's like Bards of the board on the front, and then on the back it says, I'm a theme guy. So, because I love a good theme, but Jason nailed it. Like, no idea that storytellers is what this was supposed to be, but like, sure, sounds great. Yep. Don't care. It is that fun of a game that I don't need a theme to get into it, because I'm just ready to see the cards. I think that was one of the most exciting things about jumping into Disney Dixit was, okay, I'm worried that we're going to be forced into Disney clues.
Yeah.
But I'm also like, there's no shot that with how creative they are, that these are just, here's a picture of Genie.
Right.
Right. I didn't expect them to be like movie stills. I wanted Dixit versions of Disney, and that's what we got, which was really, really cool. Game length. What is the game length predicted on the box?
Yeah, that's a good
question.
question.
It said 30 to 45 minutes, I think.
It says 30 minutes. On the box, it proper says 30 minutes. Right back there. Which
I feel like that's accurate.
Oh, yeah. I don't think, excuse me, unless the guesses are going really bad and points aren't happening, I think that's quite accurate. And what slows down the game is loving the art. We sit and talk about the art, especially the Disney one, because we're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know that was. I just saw it because it was one of the cards had all the cows on it, and it was from, I don't even know what it was from. And like I ended up, getting some points because of that, because it wasn't clear that's because some of the Disney cards were like, that's clearly Wreck-It Ralph. But then the other was like, was that that's Wally? I didn't know it was Wally. And so we geek out over the cards. So, and even on the regular cards as well, the art is just so crazy and cool. You can kind of dive into those. But I think 30 minutes is easily, especially if you know the game and there's no real teach, you just get out and play it. It's definitely a 30 minute or less game.
Yeah. Yeah. I think when I have sat down at a table, when we did, it was one of the first Foundation game nights that we did. I was at a table and I had Dixit with literally a whole table of new players. And I didn't even play. I just orchestrated.
Yeah.
And I think that one took 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Like it's just that. And then people can get really fixated. I think another way that slows down the length is or increases the length, slows down the game, whatever we want to say, is when folks really, Jason he talked about on this episode of just play the game to play the game.
Yeah.
People get so fixated on like giving the perfect clue, trying to find like the nice thing is 9 times out of 10, you could really just pick your card while it's not your turn and be thinking about what you want one of your clues to be. And the only way that gets messed up if the person before you gives a clue and you're looking at that card that you were planning on using and you're like, yeah, this is kind of perfect. I'm just going to go and play this anyways. Because you're always incentivized, kind of taking it into strategy, you're always incentivized to, if you have a card that matches another person's clue, you always want to play it.
Yep.
Like there is no reason to hold it if you believe that it's close enough that it could pull other people's votes, because that not only makes your job easier in voting, but gets you more points.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if you, there are times, and there's awesome moments when somebody makes a clue and you're like, oh, I have the perfect card and I know I'm going to get points, because there's no way not, at least because I'm not voting on this card. So I know it can't be me, but in a perfect world, I have a better version of their clue by luck, but it's still fun. I put it out there, and then everyone votes on, or a lot of people vote on my card, but I vote on the right card, and I just got a lot of points because I got 1 point for every correct vote or incorrect vote by other folks, and then 1 point on the main thing. And so it's just fun. But then there are those times when people make a clue and you're like, there's no way I'm getting anything, just because it's the way it is, because it's such a unique thing. It's also, you can do a lot of inside baseball on this, in that if you have your 3 college-age kids who all have inside video game knowledge who want to help each other out, they can make some abstract reference of an anime or video game, whatever. And I'm like, Liz and Agalucha are going to have no clue. We're not getting anything this time because I don't even know what that clue is, right? So they didn't do that, but they've done that in times past with Dixit for certain. They've made like inside kind of clues or inside kind of hints where they're helping each other out because they know there's no way everyone's going to vote on it when mom and dad have no clue. Because that's why the idea what I didn't say is that everyone has to privately vote, so you don't know who else to vote on, and then reveal at the same time. That way you can't follow someone else's vote. In your hand, okay, everybody go, everybody got your vote ready. Now turn it over and show us who you're voting for, as opposed to just putting out there and voting. And that way you can't tip your hand that you're not voting for your card because you can't vote for your card. So for certain. And I, the same way, it's tough. It's fun, but I have a perfect clue for this card. I have a perfect clue for this card. And then somebody gives just as good of a clue for that card. And then I have to reveal it. I'm like, okay, I got to hold on to this. And then thinking through those things. But you're right. You can get both sides of it. You can get too worried about not giving a great clue or giving too good of a clue. Or conversely, slow down who you want to vote for because there's too many good options. And that's why sometimes you got to go with your gut. Just go with your gut. Whatever's going to be is what it's going to be. And then ride that wave.
Yeah, I think anybody who's played Dixit for a decent amount of time, I mean, the game came out in 2008, so I would say most all of us have had at least one round of Dixit where you sniped someone's clue, and that's exactly how it played out. Like, you played the card, essentially everybody, if not everybody, voted for yours, and then you were the one vote off, and you're like, that's right. We did it. Game on. So, and then, exactly what Jason said. I think it's an interesting strategy. And it was one that I never really thought about because we just played it so casually as a family, was the idea that if you're in the lead and you're giving a clue, you just want to find, looking at your cards, an inside joke with someone else at the table and give a card based on that so that only the 3 of you get points. that type deal. Once again, I understand it's gamifying, whatever. I remember I'll never forget the first time that I played this with our friend Josh, and we sat down. It was me, Josh, and his wife Sarah, and Josh tried to break the game before we played our first round. And he was like, oh yeah, so we just need to make sure that we vote for like each other's. And I was like, huh? And he was like, yeah, because like if Sarah's in the lead and we just know that we vote for each other's, we just lock her out of points. We take 2 points and she gets nothing. And I'm like, yeah, that is maximizing the points, but it's kind of like not the reason we play the game. And he was like, no, we play the game to win. Touche. That's okay. I get it. So
I need to eventually have Josh over, and I need to find the perfect game to play with him. Just for that,
yeah.
Like, you know,
his brain works in such a cool way, and it's just like it truly attacks things from an angle that I'm like, I can't even fathom how you get there. It's phenomenal. So, one of the things about this, and we talk about mechanics, right? I think that the idea of submitting clues and that it's either too easy, too hard, or just right that not everyone got it, I think is a really fun social mechanic that is an underrated part of the game. We talked about how people want to enjoy the game for the art and things like that. But I do think that it brings this like really fun element of, okay, like you're trying to squeak out this clue and you almost laugh a little bit when you're the clue giver, because when everyone reveals the votes, if they all just run straight to your clue, you're like, oh, yeah, that was too easy. And then sometimes when they all dodge it, you're like, how did you guys not get that? Like it seems so there for me. Certainly some fun stories that come out of it for that side.
I like the lightness. I mean, I repeat this a lot. I play games to have fun. Now, I'm not trying to lose, and I try to win, but I definitely want to have fun. I want to have a fun card that's just really cool to play. I want to pull out this card with Wreck-It Ralph or with Wally or whatever that's not obvious that, or just because I really love the card or it's a cool card. So I like that for sure. And I gamified a little bit because Liz always laughs at me because she doesn't realize that I'm doing it. Because so if you're the storyteller, you know which card is correct. And then everybody gives you their cards. You shuffle them up. And as you come out, as I reveal them, I go, oh, wow, that's interesting. Oh, wow, that's cool. Thinking that, okay, you know, or vice versa, the other way around. If I'm not the storyteller, I comment on every card, including my card, because it's gamifying. Other people thinking, oh, that's the first time I've seen that card. So it's clearly not Jason's. Well, it was my card, but I'm going to say that about every card, right? And so I do a little bit of that just to mess with the table a little bit, you know, not breaking the game, but just messing with people's minds to be like, okay, why did he just say that's a cool card? Is that his card? Is that not his card? What's going on here? So I like that for sure. It's what's interesting.
I think if I remember right, we got Will on one of those when we played, is because it was like one of his first times playing Dixit, it felt like. And so he gives a clue and then he like shuffles them up and then starts flipping them over. Yeah. And he goes, oh, that's a great card. Yeah, we're like,
clearly not your card. You're not gamifying that one. Yeah, for sure. So what is so fun about this, and I'll reference it now, is that these cards are interchangeable with Stella, which we've talked about Stella in games in times past, and Mysterium. The way I like how this changes up how Stella is, because in this one you have a little bit of pressure if you're kind of shy or whatever to give a good clue. Going back to the point, if you're not someone who likes doing that, then you may be a little uncomfortable. But if you know the crew, it's kind of like the mind. If you have the right crew there, you can pull people out of it. And as they go, it can happen that way. They start getting better at giving clues because they see how other people do clues. The good thing about Stella, which is the exact same cards, is the clue is just given, right? It's nighttime or birthday, and you're voting on those. So that's one where I go much more tactical, truly trying to do min max. Okay, that kind of looks like a birthday thing. Is that a boat or is that a whatever? And so I love the fact that one card, the same card in one game is looked at and perceived one way, and in the next game is perceived in a different way. Perceived in a different way and used in a different way. And then even in Mysterium, you've played Mysterium, right, Robbie?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I love Mysterium.
Mysterium's
Mysterium
great.
is I put in my collection Mysterium over Dixit most of the time.
Yeah, you have to have the right. It's weird and it's odd and but it's fantastic, right? And if you have you have the right people who are able to work together. We played it over Christmas, but I was the ghost. But you can use the exact same cards. You can use Dixit cards, even though the backs don't matter in this game, and that you now use these cards to give clues to people to try to solve who killed them, basically, right? It's more complicated than that, but you're using, one is I can use this card to give you a clue to help drive you to something. I'm using a verbal prompt to try to get you to guess something. And the other one, we're all guessing something. So it's so cool that they've now taken this system of a card, a single card or a whole stack of cards that can do 3 different things in 3 different games.
Yeah. It is so awesome. The art itself, I always talk about the fact that like if I'm not a person that decorates really ever. Like the fact that this is decorated back here behind me on my podcast set is solely because I know that it probably looks better to have something back there.
Yep.
There is soundproofing panels in front of me, and the poster that is over here is because it was in my son's room, and apparently that wasn't allowed to have a movie poster in his nursery. It didn't match. Winnie the Pooh and Hot Rod. Who knew? So I'm not a decorating guy. If I had, like, if suddenly I came across a house and my wife left me, passed away, all sad things, right? And I had to decorate. It comes around to a good thing. Don't worry, guys. You think I've lost you. I could just take several of these cards, print them out poster size, picture frame size, any of that. And I guarantee you when people came over to my house, they would comment on how cool the art is that I have in my house, because so many of these cards could just be hung up as art inside the house. They are so cool. And some of them, like Jason mentioned, The Lord of the Rings, some of them make homages to really popular things. Like there is a Truman Show card.
Yep.
Like it's very clearly just a guy walking up a set of stairs with a hole in the wall, or like a door in the wall.
Yep.
But it's not exactly Truman Show,
right.
But you know that's the Truman Show.
Yep.
So it's really, really fun how they have, and I think that's what made Disney Dixit so interesting, was exactly what we said earlier. There were no still images. It was this universe versions of Disney.
Yeah.
And once again, I was like, I'd be more inclined to put some of these up in my house over like actual Disney art.
Oh yeah, like this one right here. It's hard to tell for those on YouTube, but that's the Pixar lamp, but it doesn't really look like the Pixar lamp. Then you realize that's the Pixar lamp, and that's just, it's awesome. Like some are very obvious, even though it's stylized versions, and then some are like, what exactly is that? Like here's Robbie's favorite card from the time we played.
Oh, is it my perfect cast? Yeah. Like, it's so cool. Like, it's Goofy, just looking like Goofy, but also, Ryder pointed out, it's like, there's an homage to the disco, which is in Goofy Movie 2, and he's in the boat, so it's still the first. It's really, really awesome. Another feature that I want to like highlight real fast that I think is really cool about this, because I made the reference to Will, like, feeling like the first time he played it, but Will came in second place when we played this game. Second place according to Fantastic February, because I'm not a person in Fantastic February, because I'm not there. So technically Jason took first, I came in second. Bart's on top, let's go. But Will was right there. It wasn't like there was this huge separation or anything. And one thing that I think is really cool about this game is that Will was in it and competitive, started out slow, but very rarely did this game someone just run away with it. Like they're so far ahead that it's like, well, we can just kind of quit halfway through, because even when that happens, somehow it feels like they always get slowed up and people catch up to them. So I love that, like, it just takes that time of, he started slow because he hadn't really played the game before, but once he figured it out, it was like, oh yeah, he's cooking. So I really did enjoy that aspect of things, where it was everyone's in it, everyone stays competitive, and it's just very hard to find that in a lot of games, it feels like. Yeah,
for sure. You're so right. When I think back through our plays, and I haven't played a lot in the last few years, but we played a lot in the beginning, was that even in that game we played, Elizabeth was like, hey guys, I'll see you later, because we just pulled away, and next thing you know, Elizabeth's like in second place real time in the game. And so while there may seem like there's a runaway leader, there's rare that's happened, because just on a turn of a dime, you can get 3 points for guessing right. 3 people vote for you, and that's 6 points. It's a 30-point game, especially with a 5 or 6 player game. And next thing I'm like 20% of my score just happened on a single turn, or you go 2 turns and get no points if you're the leader, because just the way it goes, right? You guessed wrong because the cards are really good, or you didn't give a really good clue, or whatever that may be. So I agree. Like in the game, you can get worried and be like, oh man, I'm never going to catch up. And the next thing you know, we're all bunched back together, because the ebb and flow of that game and how it can change from one turn to the next, and you can have such big points on a turn, definitely helps.
Yeah. So, Jason, anything, replayability? I feel like, well, we can sort of blitz through the last part of this, because it's a game that truly is like, it's an awesome game, guys. I think my excitement shows. I'm sort of spoiling where I'm going to land, but replayability is super high. If there was one pushback on replayability, I would say we've kind of made a reference to it, and that is that oftentimes if you, how do I say this without like sounding like I'm mean? If you aren't that creative of a person, sometimes you can get locked into this card goes to this clue, and that like can sort of lower the replayability side. But also, I feel like that only happens if you're only playing with the exact same people every single time. Because as soon as you add one new person into it, I'm getting that Lord of the Rings card, and I'm not immediately thinking Lord of the Rings there. I'm going like Rapunzel. Yeah. And so I'm throwing like Rapunzel, and now people are throwing tower cards in the picture and all that. And so, but now realizing like if I play at the Collins house, they're probably not voting on that card, because they're like, well, that's not Rapunzel. That's Lord of the Rings. And so how you view it. So that replayability sounds like it could be a drawback, but like I said, as soon as you introduce a single new person in, you're back to the races.
Yeah, we've played a ton for sure. And it's funny because I was going to my point about it when I opened it up, realized, oh, I'd put an expansion here. I can't show it here, but if I turn it over and look at the back, I can see what's expansion, what's not, because some are clearly wildly worn out and some are not, because we've played it so many times. Because it's not, we haven't really talked about this, it's not a true party game the way Just One is, or Green Team Wins is, or one of those kind of party games, but it's not a heavy strategy game. Because, I mean, there's some strategy, but not, unless you're Josh, there's not deep strategy in that, right? So it's an interesting balance there, because you can look at it as a regular game. I mean, it's a shorter game, but like a regular tabletop game. Or you can look at it as a light party game, because you're all kind of laughing and talking about it, right? And so I love that it straddles the fence on that level. And the replayability makes it easier for that, because party games in general are almost infinitely replayable. That's the idea, is because you're just kind of playing them to have fun. This one's a little more thinky, but not much. And so I totally agree with replayability. And even your point is correct, but it's only, even that's even limited by the people and not the game. It's not the game that's not making it replayable. It's like the people in it. And then if you ever get through it so much, we'll just spend $20 more, buy an expansion, and you got 60 more cards that change up the entire dynamic of the game for sure.
Yeah, dude, it's just so good, man. It's so good. Now, cost wise, I think cost and production can sort of be lumped in together. You want to talk about these two side by side, because I feel like you've got a better read on pricing in there.
It is the MSRP, the standard price for it is $40, which makes sense because the big picture is they have to pay for the art. Again, it's hard to, as a regular person who's kind of not deeper in the game system, is like, why does this cost more, quote unquote, for a bunch of cards? It's because every card is unique art on there. So overall, the cost is a little higher. The good thing is you can almost always find Dixit on sale. We're recording this on Tuesday. We'll drop this on Thursday. But at least as of Tuesday, Disney Dixit is $26 on Amazon, which is a great deal. Like, it's an amazing deal for the art that you're getting. Because so often in games like this, you're paying for like 60 or 70 cards and a board and some pieces, but you're really paying for the art of that game and the replayability. But the art is what drives it a little higher than when you think about other games out there. But for the replayability and the aesthetic value of it, even the $40 makes sense. But definitely you can shop around for that and absolutely find it at the $30, even in lower range, for both regular Dixit and Disney Dixit.
Yeah. And I will say, if your local library has board games, I know more and more are getting board games. If your local library has board games, I can almost with certainty guarantee you that they have this game.
Yeah.
Like it's such an easy one for a library to carry. I think our local library carries multiple copies of this game because it's so popular. It's right up there, and it is. When I say we've referenced it in lists and things before, I feel like the two lists that it almost always ends up on, party game lists, because of the fact that like it's just so easy to jump out with a group of people who have never played before. I've played this with my 5 and 7 year old like niece and nephew before.
Yeah, absolutely.
So like, because for them, they can just look at the pretty picture and come up with a clue, right? Like they're not going to get a ton of points in the voting and things like that, but they can easily look at a picture and say what story that picture is trying to tell. And then you jump alongside. Like it's very, very easy for them to play. Yeah,
so true.
Worth it 100%.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. It is. You just hit the nail on the head. It's not lower. Like they list the age. They even list the age as 8 years old. So definitely a little younger than 8 because you know your kids. But 8 years old is a pretty easily jump in and play the game. May not get a lot of points, but they can have fun with the game and understand the concept for it, for sure. If you don't mind, I'm going to jump into my score first. If you're good with that, because I think we're going to be different scores here. I forgot to highlight that also, just to show for what awards mean, Dixit actually won the Spiel, which is the biggest award in board gaming. So it won the Spiel way back 2010. Just because of the way the awards work with release dates, right? So it is a Spiel winner, which says a lot about a game, right? And on the boxes, it talks about the millions and millions and millions of games it sold because that's just how popular it is. So I will say all that to say I have nothing but positive things to say about this game. But for me, again, talking about our cookie rating, for me, it's a sugar cookie for sure. I will happily play it, but just by looking at BG stats, I played Dixit until we played Disney Dixit the other night. I had not played it since 2021. At least I don't have a BG stats of it. I may have played it at like a game night for Foundation or something, but not an actual family game where we got together. The last time we played it was Fantastic February in 2021. So it's been 4 years since I played a serious game of Dixit. But if we ever play it, I always have fun and love it. But it's never one that I go grab to pull off the shelf because I'll pull Stella off first because I just like Stella a little bit more. But I will never say no to Dixit. If it's ever out and people want to play it, I'll sit down and have a fantastic time playing it. Sure cookie for me.
Yeah, I walked in sort of going between two. I think in a similar vein to what Jason's saying, it doesn't grab the double doozy for me just because I think about the fact that like it's the two drawbacks for me. 2-player game.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't even play it 2-player. It doesn't exist. Yeah. Like you have to have 3.
Yeah, 3.
So that is a drawback for me. So it comes in as a chocolate chip because of the fact that I can't just play this with Lindsay. So we have to have a third there. And also most often I can't tell you the last time that I had friends over to play board games with Dixit being the focus. Like you guys are coming over to play Dixit, but it is a chocolate chip for me because there have been many a game night where everyone's just hanging out and we like want to play one more game,
right?
But we don't really want to dive into something serious. Boom, we can play that. And we can also, you can adjust it to where you can be like, hey, we're going to go around the table 3 times. If we're at 30 points, awesome. We have a winner. And if not, we're cutting at 3. Everyone's leaving. Like that's the type deal. So we've put that restriction down several times. So it comes in a chocolate chip. Once again, in terms of games that we've talked about that I feel like have to be in your collection.
Yeah.
If I was just judging it on that, it's a double doozy. Okay. Like it's a must include. It's not on Splendor level where it's like, here's the big 3 and it's right outside of it.
Yeah.
But it kind of is.
Right. You're right. It kind of is. It truly is because there's no other, because it's an abstract game in and of itself, not an abstract token based game, but an abstract game in that we're giving clues verbally and turning in cards. It's not worker placement, moving around the thing, deck building. That it's that level for sure. So a must have. I could even though my score's a little lower, I could definitely see that because the same way with your family, depending on what kind of gaming family you may have, you may play it a ton because you may have younger kids who it helps them learn gamifying kind of stuff, and just they can just sit around and laugh because we're going to laugh at, wow, you thought that was what? Why did you think that was that? Because it's clearly that or whatever, right? So it's definitely a game that could be your go-to family game for that, and easily can make a list of 10 or 20 games everyone should have. It's definitely a game everyone should play at least once, which could be a top 10 for us one day. But because the Dice Tower just did that, I'm like, oh, I haven't watched it yet. I'm like, oh, that's interesting because it may not be the games you would say that I would normally say. Because Wonderland's War is not a game everyone should play once, but I kind of think Bang the Dice game is, which is randomly. We're getting off topic here, but I could definitely see that with Dixit.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about games that there is a card that I have such a core memory of, and it really is. It's Atticus when he's super young and playing it, and he plays this card, and I see it, and I'm like, yeah, no, like, buddy, how did you get there? Like, we all laughed about it. We had a great time. Yeah. It was awesome. And now every time that I've played Dixit with that side of the family, like, it's just, yeah, we know that card. You're cheating if you don't say that card. Like, say that clue, say Atticus's clue for that. Like, you're not doing it. Yeah. So, Jason, any final thoughts as we sort of wrap things up? Or
no, man. Like I said, we've talked about Dixit many times over the last year and a half of us doing Bard, so it's fun to finally formally discuss it on the podcast.
Yeah, and I think that Stella for sure is probably next in the installment. It's either Stella as not in like next week's episode, for those of you who are like, oh, I know what next week's episode is going to be. They never teased it like that before. No, I think of the continuing in the family of games, Stella's probably up there. And the only reason I think we would pivot to Mysterium Over is if we were talking about like co-op games.
Yeah.
Just because the co-op side of it is fascinating. So yeah. But that's going to wrap things up for this episode, y'all. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let us know your thoughts on Dixit down below. What's your favorite? This will be a fun one for those of you that have played. What is one of your, it's going to be hard to pick a favorite because now I'm realizing I'm putting the challenge on Jason and I. We're going to have to go in the comments and write down ours. But what's a favorite art of yours in the game? And that'll be even more fun because you have to describe the card in the description in the comments. So thank you guys for tuning in. Hope you have a great one, and we'll see you guys in a few weeks for episode 38.
See ya.